It's Wednesday. That means it is another episode of Crazy Train with Jasmine St. Clair podcast. So it's been kind of interesting being back in XPW. And I have to say, like, there are characters that I might have known before. Like, I never had a chance to work with Angel, the hardcore homo, or Veronica Kane. So that's pretty cool so far. But so the first time we came back in Pomona, I've got to say that was like the longest night I've ever been to a wrestling show, but we had an extreme death match tournament. One of the people I met was a clown. Like, he really is a clown. Like, I've never gotten high with a clown before, especially like a dirty clown. But anywho, I remember sitting there with Veronica Kane for the meet and greet. And thanks to those of you who did show up. And Dirty Ronald McDonald, that's right, like Dirty Ronald McDonald. And no, he doesn't do like John Wayne Gacy shit. He's just a clown that does comedy and really supports the arts and is somewhere in Southern California. He had a joint and he was sitting there with one of the other wrestlers and he says, hey, you ladies, you girls want some? Which is really, it was cool. I felt like I was in a scene out of like Dazed and Confused, where you have the one cool stoner kid asking the girls, hey, you want to get high with me? And that's not really my thing, but who's going to say no to having a hit off a joint with Dirty Ronald McDonald? There's only one time in my life I can honestly say I got high with a clown.
Whatever. So
there you go. So you were in movies when you were a kid. Like, how old were you and what kind of movies were you in?
So my mom, being a loving Jewish mother like she was like, all right, well, my son's either going to be an accountant or he's going to be an entertainer, because we pretty much have two choices as Jew. So my mom, I was a cute little kid. I mean, like, I was a cute little round-faced white baby boy with the curly red hair, and I always get the attention of the ladies. They'd always love my curls. My mom would take me to the beauty salon because nobody's going to let some regular jerk bartender cut my curls. Yeah, I mean, you gotta look good. You gotta look good.
Well, you're very interesting. When I first met Dirty Ron McDonald, which is by the way, you're afraid of clowns?
Yeah, honestly, kind of. I think that's what we kind of do. We take what scares us and try to embody that to take the fear away, right?
Well, did you have like some kind of a traumatic experience with a clown when you were a child?
My therapist told me not to talk about that too much, but no, I think it was always like a prize as a kid to go to McDonald's, at least in my white trash household in St. Louis, Missouri, that we're like, oh, let's go there. It's a treat. It's like a circus going on over there. So, it always put McDonald's on a pedestal above other fast food, above really any other food. So, long-time influence from eating that garbage food for a long time.
Yeah, but like McDonald's had the very first really good sundaes. Like, I had Frosties when I was a kid at Wendy's, but McDonald's had that caramel sundae. Remember when they first came out, or is that like way before your time?
Oh, no. I'm 39 years old. I have a pretty photographic memory. So, I remember all that. I remember there were ashtrays still in McDonald's back when I started first going to McDonald's. So it's crazy to see, a company like that go from, we got ashtrays, so now they got like salads and healthy options. Like, who goes to McDonald's for healthy options? Go to Whole Foods or something.
Yeah, but you'd be surprised. There was some dickweed that went into a Pacific Dining Car. Those of you listening who do not know what Pacific Dining Car is, it's a California-based steakhouse. It's very vintage. Now, these were around since like the 1940s or even earlier. And these two vegans went in there and sued them because they didn't have vegan options. So why would I go into a vegan butchery looking for fucking meat, for crying out loud? And then now you have these people going in trying to sue a steakhouse. By the way, they did sue. And as far as I heard, they didn't win. Like, thank God.
Amazing how crazy frivolous lawsuits come out these days.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't find some loophole to win. Everybody wants to be included in everything. And I thought that's what made things special, is that not everybody gets to be included in everything. It's not a bad thing. We're not trying to exclude people, but I mean, like, for instance, if you're not one of the most crazy, insane deathmatch type wrestlers with some attitude and personality, XPW doesn't need you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not everybody gets to do everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. XPW is one of the I think it's one of the most, it's an obscure wrestling league. I mean, it's like ECW wrestling on steroids for sure. And I remember when they first opened up, it was interesting watching it like evolve into what it is now. How did you even get into XPW wrestling? Was it just the gimmick? I mean, what was the whole thing?
So, I started wrestling. I was doing backyard wrestling in, 99, 2000, watching you on ECW pay-per-views. Crazy I'm here now. But, loving deathmatch wrestling, because that's some of the first stuff I got is tape trading. I got some FMW, Onita exploding ring matches. I'd see some Big Japan where, you got like a scorpions and tank and stuff like that. So it was just like this stuff could, it shows that you're a little bit different. I mean, being an athletic base wrestler is one thing, and I wrestled in high school and I got a good athletic base. Been an athlete, powerlifting for a long time. So, but deathmatch was always something that set itself apart. So when I got into wrestling at 15, 14, 15, 16, doing backyard, that's kind of what I saw. I was like, that's what I can do that other people can't do, I figured. So to see deathmatch wrestling evolve to what it is now, it's kind of getting watered down, because good deathmatch wrestling is done with a story. It's done well with a story, even though you're going out there and stabbing each other with shit. So in a long-winded effort to answer your question, last year, summer 2021, I did a big jump off of a roof. It was like a 22-foot high roof, perfect elbow from the roof right through a guy on a table. Scariest shit I've ever done. But right at that time, I guess Rob Black was looking to get started back up again. And he's good friends with Kevin Kleinrock, Lucha, Mass Lucha, or Mass Republic. And Ruben was like, hey, Kevin was like, hey, you need to check this Dirty Ronald Mc Donald out. He's right up your alley. Rob hit me with a DM. First time we talked, I was like, I want to work with this guy for a long time. Anything that anybody has ever said bad about Rob Black, I'm sure it's true to them. But, he's a very passionate person. He's very willing to listen. He comes with good ideas, and the excitement and the excitement in the past really gets me over Rob Black. He's always excited. I mean, maybe it's probably not just me, but like he's always full of energy,
I mean, that's Rob. I remember from the very first day when he started the company, like I didn't know what was going on exactly. I knew that they were starting something, but by that time I was I'd already worked for ECW. But I just remember my first time meeting the Dirty Ronald Mc Donald. We're sitting there at the first XPW show in Pomona, the Rebirth show. And all of a sudden, I mean, he did a very polite thing that reminds me out of a scene, maybe out of like Dazed and Confused. I'm sitting there with Veronica Kane, and he's like, hey, do you ladies want some? And he offers us like a joint. I said yes, because I just had to, just for the sake of thing I did. Besides, I'm afraid of clowns too. But moving.
Hopefully I can lighten that up for you, Jazz.
You did. You did. I mean, I'm not really afraid of clowns completely. I don't know if I don't really have like childhood trauma from it or anything like that. Like they're just scary sometimes, especially seeing one like cut himself in a ring. Were you surprised to see how far like female wrestling has come in XPW? I think that takes it to like a whole other level. I've never seen girls get color like that.
It really does. And I think that is thanks to wrestlers like Sage Sin Supreme. She's a staple out here on the West Coast. I run a little promotion out of my wrestling warehouse in San Diego. And she's our Triple X champion. That was a championship that I held, to kind of give it a little bit of a whatever here in San Diego. And then, we christened her with the championship. She's an incredible talent. She really sets the pace for it. And her being located out here in California, it was so awesome to see her get through 3 rounds of the king of the deathmatch tournament. That says something by itself. And then to see her in the XPW Women's Championship, get to that final 4-way, it's amazing to see her work, to see her get around with the crowd. And, I think that's where it starts in XPW. I know that at the next show, Night of Reckoning, August 13th, she's going to be in the first ever women's death match. So to see her really champion that role and take the ball and run with it, it's great. I've had several intergender death matches. I got an intergender death match this Saturday against Sarika. So to see where women have come with that, like, I love it because I know my wife, my mom, my sister, three most important women to me in my life, are very strong women. So, to see women be able to take that and run with it. There's not women in men's deathmatch wrestling. There's just deathmatch wrestling. And we can all do it, no matter what you were born with between your legs.
Yeah, I mean, so much for WWE thinking they were taking like women's wrestling to a whole other level. Well, guess what? It just got better at XPW wrestling, of course. And, I don't know if they ever really used a lot of their female wrestlers to the fullest potential. Like Jazz, for example, in ECW, they did not push her the way they should have, for crying out loud. But XPW, I think like everyone has a chance. Now, here's something my mom said. She said they were all sick in the head. Like she watched ECW and she watched the pay-per-view, the last show. So she claims that we need therapy. So I'm trying to like juggle this in my brain. Like who really needs a therapy? Is it the fans? Because the fans watch this shit because they're either afraid to like go out and hurt themselves.
Yeah.
Or I could do it for them. Or secondly, is it the wrestlers because you do this to yourselves? Or three, like what about like the groupies that are into guys that do that?
Isn't that crazy? When I first got into wrestling, I saw this wild world of characters. I'm a big fan of stand-up comedy. I've been doing stand-up comedy for a minute. To see people come out there, and because that's our job. Our job is to manipulate emotions. Our job is to make people feel something that isn't real. And not only that, as wrestlers, I'm sure you've been on set a million times. I see actors take 10, 12 takes to get 2 sentences down. Pro wrestlers are doing drama, improv, stunt, comedy, action, all in one take with an audience 360 degrees around us, Shakespearean style, sweating around in our fancy underwear, So our job is, I'm not trying to, kiss on our suck our own dicks or whatever, but like our job is such a difficult job. And I think that people don't really recognize how much talent it really takes to be able to do all that in with a live audience, heckling you, yelling at you, saying things that are there to throw you off. Like I do stand-up comedy. If you talk during a comedy show, they're throwing your fucking ass out. At church, same thing. You're heckling, they're throwing you off. In wrestling, we encourage everybody, get drunk, yell at the wrestlers, be part of the show. And to answer your question, our therapy, to me, my therapy is wrestling, getting out there and taking that nervous energy right before I cross the curtain and then popping right through. And all of a sudden that nervous energy went from, oh my God, I don't know what I'm about to do. I feel like I got to pee 13 times to cross through that curtain. And then all of a sudden you're the man, all of a sudden that nervous energy turns into power, turns into energy. And I get to give that energy back and get more energy back from people, There's a show called What We Do in the Shadows. And you watch that show?
Yeah, I know the show. Mm-hmm.
It's comedy show about vampires or whatever. And there's one of these vampires, I think it's the best character on television ever. He's an emotional vampire. So he like sucks the energy out of you by saying corny shit and shit. Where you're like, and I think that's like, I felt like I have a little bit of that because I feel like I get energy from people when I'm getting cheered or when I'm getting yelled at or when I'm fuck you clown or, whatever it is. There's nothing better than to manipulate somebody's emotions, get them feel something that's not real, that you made that happen. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very different. It's like a drug in and of itself. And I don't think, unless you've actually been through the curtain and been there in the midst of the insanity and madness or chaos, I should say.
Oh yeah.
You don't know like what that adrenaline rush is. Was there something else you wanted to do when you were a kid? Like maybe become a slaughterhouse owner or something, or like a vet?
Swear to God, everybody was talking about, want to be a firefighter, astronaut, whatever. I was always pro wrestler. My mom had about 75 matches in the independent St. Louis circuit in the late 70s before I existed. So, white trash runs heavy in my family. Our family always got the WrestleManias. I'm 39 years old. So like we got the first WrestleMania. I was almost 2 years old and, March 31st of 1985. So, we've been around it all. I've been to 5 WrestleManias, I've watched every WrestleMania live except number 24. I had to work at the strip club, whatever. So, wrestling is such a huge part of who I am Wrestling is such a huge part of, I think, our society in whole. You know, I hate to get into politics or anything. I'm not really going to touch on it, but I think politics and the news, everything does what wrestling has always done. Presenting something that's real, that's maybe not totally true, with a little bit of elements of reality in that, but it mixes it into where it pulls on your emotional strings, you know? So, you know, you see politicians go out there and make you feel something instead of talking about the issues. Like, well, why are we talking about the issues? Oh, because people care more when you're calling somebody this, or, you know, like you're making fun of that or whatever. You know, like, hey, you know what? Maybe they just figured it out. Maybe they, you know, people figured out how to get your attention, and that's being a wild and being a pro wrestler come to life.
Well, it's also a tool that media has always used for many years called sensationalization.
Oh,
That's why I always advise the elderly, maybe it's best not to always just watch the news because it sensationalizes things, hence maybe it gets your blood pressure up. I don't know. It's just a weird temperature, and it's crazy because everyone you always speak to, well, you know, I don't really talk about politics, and it's never ever been such a touchy issue until like these past few years, you know?
Yeah.
And what do you said you worked at a strip club. So what are some of the day jobs you've actually held down, you know, while you continued wrestling?
So, I mean, Jesus, it went in spurts. So, you know, I started wrestling. I was the second professional wrestler under 18 to get my Missouri wrestling license in 2001. Matt Seidel was the first, long time, you know, really good friend of mine. So, going from, I wrestled for about, you know, 5-6 years. I stopped that. I was 23 years old. I started my own marketing company called Box Hoppers, where I had several pizza places in town. I created their menus for them, sold advertising on the back, booked different venues and shows, got back into wrestling here and there, found a little bit of success as a wrestling cow, because the Insane Clown Posse booked me a lot. They love stupid characters like that. I had like udders that like squirted out milk and stuff. It was fucking hilarious. So finding that, you know, and my really big lick throughout that entire time was I was booking shows. I was booking some like B/C level artists through in St. Louis, and I got the opportunity to book Afro Man because I got hot. So his producer lived in St. Louis, so I was able to book some shows locally. Then do a couple of college towns, and I was putting small tours together. And I put a big 2.5-month tour together with Afro Man, traveled the whole country. It was great. I booked like 85-90% of the shows, and this is all just me cold calling. Like. At that point, Afro Man kind of had a bad reputation of showing up late, you know, fucked up, whatever. So I had to cold call these venues. Now he was like, here's a list of people I worked with. Cold call all these places. So I set up this stuff, yada, yada, yada. Figured out, hey, I need to be out on the West Coast. There's weed everywhere. You know, like, yeah, it's cool for you to smoke. I had 15 tickets back in St. Louis, like for small amounts of marijuana. You know, like I use this instead of pain pills. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, you know, like getting back out of the West Coast, like I'd worked all sorts of jobs, strip club, head of promotions in nightclubs, but they were never really real jobs. I had my last real job in like 2007, 8. So now I work real hard to not have a real job.
That sounds more interesting. And why did you choose comedy? That's, I mean, it's this weird thing. Like, so at Second City, Ryan Nemeth or Heel Ziegler, he had an improv troupe. And I met John Hennigan there. Like, that's kind of how I got turned into the whole Second City thing when I hosted an improv show for them. And now there's this whole correlation of wrestling and improv. Do you see any relation, like why wrestlers get into that? And how long have you been doing comedy?
I started comedy about 8 years ago. And when I say that, I mean, 8 years ago, and up to the pandemic, I was on stage 6 to 12 times every week, without a doubt. And because I learned how to book shows by cold calling for Afro Man, I was able to set up some shows, booking my own band on a countrywide tour, 6-week tour. And then I was booking comedy shows because I found a lick with a list of dispensaries. I paid $100. I got a list of every weed dispensary in the United States, their phone number, their address, their email, their contacts, everything. So what I was able to do is I cold call these dispensaries. I was like, hey, give me $500, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 for a comedy show. And I took comedians, it was called the Cottonmouth Comedy Tour. And I took them on like 2-3 week runs. We were doing shows 6 to 7 days a week, but getting paid by these dispensaries because back in 2015, 16, 17, 18 even, it was medicinal. So every company was nonprofit. So I knew they had to spend that money, you know. So I was like, hey, why don't you give it to me? I'll come bring some hilarious stoner comics. We'll have a good fucking time. So I started comedy though to supplement wrestling. There's a lot of similarities. It's all on you. You're the center of attention. You know, it's up to you to make people feel something or not, you know. And like with comedy, you're emotionally naked. With wrestling, you're mostly naked. So, you know, there are a lot of similarities, you know, the circuits, the how you get in, you know, like there's no school for comedy like there is wrestling. So you really got to go out there, show up to the shows, help out. Hopefully you get a spot. You know, if you're good, you'll get booked. If not, you got to keep going through the cycle. So it's also something that in weird way, nobody else can take credit for me. If I bomb, if I suck, which more times than not, it happens. But you know, when I'm able to make strangers in an audience laugh, there's no better feeling. I remember the first time I got an applause break. Like, I had a girl stick her finger up my ass and give me the best orgasm of my life. But let me tell you, the best feeling I ever had was that first applause break for a joke that I came up with out of my stupid wrestler brain. Yeah.
Now, does your family ever get worried about you? I mean, because with death matches, a lot of people have watched Beyond the Mat?
Yeah.
And you watch movies like The Wrestler, and like I've witnessed so many different things, and it's just so like, even in this day and age, I still get scared sometimes for people. Do you ever have that holy shit moment, or does your family ever tell you, hey, you know, you might want to ease off of this or that?
Oh my God. I mean, like my mom's, you know, the most important person to me in my life, besides my wife. And she's, you know, I talk to her almost every day, you know, every other day. So she's always on my ass. You know, I just turned 39. I never had a major injury until the last couple of years. I've had some injuries that really never healed. So, you know, I know that I'm starting to get to that point to where I've got one more big stunt planned. We're booked for like the Oktoberfest down by the pier, and I'm throwing a guy off the pier and jumping and giving him an elbow into the ocean. But you know, yeah, my mom all the time, you know, she worries. It's something that I'm always worrisome of, but honestly, you know, and I don't want to shit on other deathmatch wrestlers, and for sure, nobody at XPW. And I don't want to, like, you know, pull the curtain away, but I mean, as long as you know what the fuck you're doing and you're not an idiot, you're trying to look out for the safety of your opponent, because 21 years wrestling, over 1,500 matches, and I've never injured anybody, in small or big. And you know, to know that, like, yeah, knock on wood, right? You know, to know that you can be safe, but you have to be intelligent, and that doesn't always come.
Yeah, well, do you ever think you'd want to work for WWE?
So obviously that's everybody's dream. I got so, you know, when they come around town, they get local wrestlers as extras. Back in 2016, I did a pay-per-view Raw SmackDown loop. I did it, you know, a handful of times. The first time I did it, you know, they tell you, hey, you know, like before the show, when you get there, get in your gear, go hang out by the ring. So there I am hanging out, first guy down there, you know, glad handing everybody, shaking hands, smiling, you know, trying to be funny, whatever, not too funny. And then Arn Anderson comes up to us. He's like, all right, you two, you're working with Braun. You two, you're working with the Colognes. So I'm thinking this is like our tryout. This is like, oh, they want to see what we can do, right? And I'm just, you know, smiling, shutting up, listening, right? It's all 2 ears, 1 mouth. Shut the fuck up. So I'm down there, you know, and Arn's like going over this idea, and me and my partner, it's 2-on-1 against Braun Strowman. If people don't know who that is, he's 27 feet tall and like 5,000 pounds. So, you know, a real man. I looked at this man and I'm like, how are we the same species? We're both men. We're human men. No, we're fucking not. Whatever you are, I am not. You're a fucking giant. So we're going over this thing. We go over like 3 times. It's very specific. It's like, all right, when you bump here, you roll this way, you know, and I have no idea what's going on. Remember, I think this is a tryout. So boom, we're done doing the go through, and they hand me a script. And I was like, oh shit, segment 8, Monday Night Raw. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna be on Monday Night Raw. Like, holy shit. I was on a 10-day comedy tour right before this, and I broke my phone. So I had no time to go get a phone. So I have no phone. So here I am. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be on Monday Night Raw, and I'm reading over the script. And one of us, of the two of us, was going to do talking live on Raw. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going through my head. I'm like, I'm going to murder this guy. What do I got to do? I got to hit him in the knee. What do I got? Do I got to steal his clothes? I don't know what I got to do. Do I got to fight this guy? I got to get that speaking role, right? So then Arn's like, who wants to do the talking? And he was like, oh, he can do it. I was like, great. So here we are. I get a script. I'm doing a promo on live on Monday Night Raw at the Oracle Arena in Oakland. There's 18,000 people live, 6.2 million watching on cable in the United States. Who knows globally how many millions of people saw this shit? So they're like, all right, whatever, we're about to go out. It's surreal because I'm in a gorilla position. You've been backstage WWE. Yeah. So gorilla position, boom. There's Vince McMahon, there's a Triple H, there's all these, everybody that, I've been watching for my entire friggin' life. So here I am, the most nervous I've ever been about. Walk through the curtain on Monday Night Raw in Oakland at the Oracle Arena, 18,000 people live. So boom, I walk through, it's all dark right in between the segment. We get in the ring, Byron Saxton's in there, and I can feel that energy turning, or feel that nervousness turning into power. And then he put that microphone in my face. And let me back up. So they said one note, you do the promo. Vince hates when people look right into the camera. Don't do that. Do not do that. They don't do that. They hate that, right? So I'm like, all right, great. So lights come on. Here comes Braun Strowman. Here's the microphone in front of my face. And Jasmine, what do? I look that motherfucker right in the camera, right? And I'm just like doing all this and doing the Hulk Hogan and doing the Macho Man and doing the, and right here in Oaktown, fucking place popped. It was amazing. So anyway, we do the match, go backstage, walk through Gorilla. I got my head down, thank you guys, whatever, trying to be respectful. Go to changing area, and I'm coming back to Gorilla to watch the TV screen where all the other extras are. So I'm walking down this corridor, and there's like 40 people. It's a big, long corridor. It's in an arena, So here I go. I'm walking towards Gorilla, and at the end of the aisle, walking my way, who do I see? Yeah. Vince fucking McMahon, right? And I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, oh my God, cool. Here I am walking. I'm like, I'm going to get to run into Vince. I don't have a camera. They told us not to be marks and take pictures. Oh my God, this is so crazy. Like, do I say something? Do I look at him? What do I do? Oh my God. And I'm walking this whole time, and all this is happening like 2.5 seconds. And I look up because I'm halfway through the corridor, and here's Vince. He's coming, but only he's looking right in my eyes. Oof. And I'm like, right. And I'm telling you what, that guy's a powerful motherfucker. He just comes with this aura. So he's looking at me, and now I'm like, oh no, I can't go backwards. There's no door here. If I go forward, I'm gonna pass him. He's mad at me because I looked in the TV screen. I'm like, oh my God, all these thoughts are coming through. And then there we were. He's standing next to me. And like a cartoon, I just like look him from down, and I look him all the way up. It felt like it took 2 hours to do that because he's such a big guy. So, I'm looking up, and there he is looking at me. So I'm looking at him. He's looking at me. I'm looking at him. He's looking at me. I'm looking at him. He's looking at me. I'm looking at him. It felt like an eternity. And then he takes his hand out and he goes, you did a great job tonight, son. You did a great job. Thank you so much. We really appreciate all your effort. You did a great job out there. Great job on the microphone, all that. And I was like, oh my God. A minute later, Stephanie McMahon came up to me and did the same thing. So there will never be a more fulfilling night to hear that the greatest man to ever do this form of entertainment. And I think that, I'm going to just tell myself he came and found me, which I'm sure isn't true. But we met, he shook my hand, he complimented me, and then his daughter did the same thing. It was fucking amazing, Jasmine.
That's awesome. Like, I like hearing stories like that. You hear so many things, like people that have been there, whether they didn't like the locker room environment or just the word is at the tip of my tongue, or not the environment. It's going to come to me.
The atmosphere.
The atmosphere. No, culture. It's that culture that these millennials use all the time. Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of injuries in wrestling, did you follow the Chris Benoit case?
Of course. Hey, it's funny. You see the shirt I'm wearing. It says it's Chris Benoit. It's a local punk band out here. They spelled a little bit different. Yeah. It's man, talk about an unfortunate incident, crazy.
Yeah, actually I can't see your shirt. I see a photo of your ass though. Because you don't.
Oh, is my picture not up?
No, it's not up. I was amused by this though in the meantime.
Oh, geez. Oh, my bad. Why didn't you tell me there was a picture up?
No, it's okay. I don't know. Not everyone uses the camera, but hey, at least you'll be on camera midstream. So when it's up on YouTube, you can see this one. So there's so many different theories on it, and it's really a tragedy what happened. Do you think that part of that had to contribute from all the injuries, or just not getting time off, or both of them?
It had to, you know, the trauma that we take to the head, and in the mid to late 90s, ECW. I'm not like blaming them for it, but there was a certain sense of, oh, you're tough if you can take something to the head. And, of course, we all copied that when we started. We took chair shots to the head, took cookie sheets, all that sort of thing. But, I think what really contributed, and I mean, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but what I think what really contributed to that is that, Chris Benoit not only was, the hardest worker in the room, from what I hear, is that, every night he was doing the flying headbutt. That was his finisher. So if he's for sure going for it once. So that's a big dive off the top rope, and you're landing on your fucking head. Like, you're landing head first. Or like what he did is he would like torpedo himself. So his head would hit people like a torpedo. So I can only imagine the trauma just from that once a night and when he was practicing that, when he was younger, I'm sure there was a million times that he hit his head there too. So I can only imagine, like, I start feeling, a little, oh, am I forgetting this or whatever, like just what we've all seen in CTE research in the last, 15 years or so, that it's something that we need to address. I'm glad we're addressing it now, because there are going to be, a lot more injuries like that, and I don't know. I don't want to blame the world. There's a lot of stress going on in the world. A lot of people are feeling a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. So like, I heard something on a podcast, on a comedy podcast the other day, a Tom Segura podcast. He's like, by 2030, a good portion of our society is going to have Alzheimer's and dementia. So, just all the overextending of the brain. Who knows? But it's just it's a very sad thing, and I'm glad it was hopefully a wake-up call for some wrestlers to put their hands up, be more conscious of how you use your head. You only have one head, like you can break an arm and bring that back, but man, a major injury like that, it's going to change the trajectory of your life.
I hope you're enjoying the ride on Crazy Train with Jasmine St. Clair podcast. So if you are, do me a huge, huge favor. Woo! Please go ahead. Go on to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, but Apple's great. Give me a nice rating and review. Send me a screenshot, and I promise you, I will send you a special goodie bag. So please rate and review Crazy Train with Jasmine St. Clair podcast. And in exchange for that, once I see the DM with the review and your name and address, I will get those gift bags out to you. I'm not going to tell you what's in it.